So you're going on a trip, you're going on vacation, you're going backpacking, maybe you're gonna try digital nomading, but you don't wanna lose those hard-earned gains that you've worked so long for in order to keep them. Well, in the last 2 years, I've been to 17 countries, I've lived in 11 different apartments, I've worked out in more than 15 different gyms, and I've managed to stay beach lean throughout that entire time. In this video, I'm gonna go through how I plan out where I'm gonna stay, how I pick my gyms, how I go about staying in shape while I am traveling. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. My name is Alex, and today, again, we're gonna be talking about how to find a new gym in a new city. So in the past 2 years, I've been to, like I said, I guess 16 or 17 countries, I'm not entirely sure, everywhere from Portugal to Colombia to Mexico to Peru to Argentina to the Dominican Republic to Canada to the United States to Aruba, Curacao, kind of been all over the place. And throughout that time, I've managed to figure out a pretty solid way that I'm always able to find a gym in these new cities. I'm always able to prepare for working out in a new environment and basically just stay beach ready year round. It's worth mentioning that I do go through sort of weight gain phases and weight loss phases. I chase the eternal summer, so I am a shitty Canadian. I haven't seen snow in the last 2 years, but that's intentional. I find it really helps my mental health and doesn't get me so down during those winter months when it's cold, it's dry, it's gray, the sun comes out at 9, it gets set at 3. It's just, I don't know, for me, I'm just past that phase of my life. I don't want to do it anymore. I put in my 25 years of Canadian winters. I don't want to do them anymore. So with that being said, when I'm picking a new city right now, for example, I'm going to show you some of the gyms in my neighborhood. I'm actually in the home base right now. I am in Toronto, where I've been living the last, well, before I started my nomad journey, I was living the last 10 years before that. So I know this city obviously extremely well. So when I was picking my short-term rental this time, I knew where to go. So you'll see a couple different examples here from a Good Life Fitness, which was kind of like our major chain, sort of like LA Fitness or Smart Fit if you're in Latin America. Also, there's an F45, which seems to be pretty popular in different countries as well, which I did not know until I was traveling so much. But they are basically like group fitness classes of like HIIT training and body weight exercises and that kind of thing, where you're doing like circuits. Pretty fun, but a little bit different. I'm not a huge sort of fan of those sort of style of classes. I don't really like to spin. I don't really do CrossFit. For me, I just like to do basically like old school, like, you know, bodybuilding exercises and powerlifting exercises, squat, bench, deadlift, you know, dumbbell flies, barbell curls, all that good stuff. That's what I enjoy training in the gym. So when I'm picking a neighborhood, I try and find gyms that are able to accommodate that sort of weight training. So with that being said, when I am planning to travel to a new city, like for instance, my apartment right now in Toronto, obviously I know this place very well and I didn't have to do too much research. I knew where the gyms were, but I did pick a neighborhood, and all 3 of these gyms you're seeing, Altea being the 3rd one, which is this like private, sort of very bougie, massive gym that was built in the last couple of years here in Toronto. I knew that these are all within walking distance. So when I get here, I'm able to just set up shop and start working out pretty easily without needing to go exploring, without needing to look at reviews, that kind of thing. But let's say I was in Buenos Aires. I lived in Buenos Aires 3 months for this winter, and I didn't really know where I was gonna stay or what I was gonna do. So when I'm, you know, planning these new cities, planning these new trips, I go online and I start to understand which neighborhoods are going to be the most accessible and the most walkable. This generally means there's things like grocery stores and gyms and restaurants in that neighborhood because they're a walkable neighborhood. So with that being said, it's pretty simple to go online and just Google most walkable neighborhood in Buenos Aires. Or in the case of a lot of cities in Latin America, you generally have to put the safest neighborhood for tourists or the safest neighborhood for foreigners in those cities. And with that being said, it's generally going to narrow down to a place that's gonna let you walk around and be safe. So that, again, goes back to the walkability of the place where you're gonna have a gym nearby. So let's give some real world examples, and I'll show some of the clips of some of the gyms that I found while I was traveling. So after Buenos Aires, I went north to Lima, Peru. And again, when I was looking at which neighborhoods are the most safe, most walkable, Miraflores was the one that came up as the most common. So when I was picking my apartment to stay there, I was only there for 4 days because I was dealing with flights from Buenos Aires to Lima and then Lima to Mexico City. It was a whole thing. But I figured out Miraflores, this neighborhood is pretty much gonna tick the boxes of everything that I need. Extremely walkable, very safe, very clean, and okay and open to tourists. The good news for me at this point was I had previously, in last spring, I had signed up for SmartFit, which is again kind of like our Good Life Fitness, kind of like LA Fitness. It's just a massive chain gym, but the benefit with SmartFit is they actually have it throughout all of Latin America, or most of Latin America. So last year when I was in Colombia, I had set up my membership in Medellin, so my account was still in the system. So it was pretty easy for me to register, and I didn't have to go through all like the paperwork bullshit and all that to sign up again. I was just able to walk into the gym and start up. One of the things that I like to do is, let's say, you know, when I was in Lima, I knew that the neighborhood I was gonna stay in was Miraflores. So then I go onto Google and I go to Miraflores neighborhood, and then I search for gyms in Miraflores. And then it's gonna give you a list of all the gyms in that area. Now, luckily for me, I did know already the SmartFit chain and I knew what to expect. You know, it's a major chain gym. You're gonna have like bench presses and squat racks in some of them, and like dumbbells up to a decent amount. That's not anything like too crazy because I knew what to expect going into them. But I knew the Selena hostel in that case in Lima was actually really close to a SmartFit. So I said, hey, you know what, let's just do that. And I walked in there and asked them if they had any day passes because I didn't want to sign up at that time because I didn't realize like if you signed up in Peru, you could also use it in Mexico. This was like earlier on in my trip. But at that time I asked them if they have day passes. They did. So I was there for 3 days. I ended up just paying for like 3 day passes, which was a little bit more expensive, but at the same time, it just let me work out when I needed to. And then if you're smart about it, what you can do in the last day is typically a day pass is for 24 hours. So if you go in at, let's say 2 p.m., get your day pass, then the third day you go in at 10 a.m., that's still 10 a.m. the next day, that's still gonna be within the 24-hour period, so you only have to pay for 1 day. That's a pro tip. Okay, now I figured that out for Peru. So then after Peru, I flew from Lima to La Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City in Mexico. And I was staying, again, figured out, you know, pretty simply, if you Google the best neighborhoods in Mexico City, you're gonna get pretty much 2 answers, Condesa or Roma Norte. And I was like kind of on the border between both. And then if you Google gyms in those neighborhoods, you get a ton of options. I think there's like 15 different gyms in Condesa alone. Everything from boxing gyms to spinning studios to SmartFit once again to a CrossFit gym to HIIT classes to an F45 to an Orange Theory Fitness. They had a ton of gyms that covers pretty much every sort of style of training that you could want, which makes it really, really easy to find something that's gonna work for you and your personal style. Now, this is where the stroke of genius kind of comes in. For me, again, I didn't want to commit to a month membership and then find out that I didn't actually like that gym or it was too far, or at night it was kind of sketchy between that gym and my apartment. So what you can actually do in a lot of these gyms, and this is not exclusive to Latin America, I did this in Europe when I was in Portugal as well, you can actually ask for a day pass out at those gyms. Then what I recommend doing is trying out a few. Go to like 3 or 4 gyms your first few days in that city and see which one you're gonna like the best. And then a lot of them are gonna have week passes, or if you're doing like F45 or Orange Theory, like a bundle where you buy like 10 or 5 classes and then you just go in there and do it. And then that way you're not locked down to just one specific location. Now, for me and my style of training, it's really beneficial to find like a commercial gym that has a membership structure that lets you move around. So SmartFit was what I ended up choosing. And then you don't have to choose one specific location. So once I had my SmartFit membership, I was able to move around Roma Norte and Condesa and find my ultimate gym that was the SmartFit in Roma Norte. I found that to be the best one, the least busy, the least amount of like Latin America fuckery. It was just overall like a really good place to work out from. And then because I had that membership set up in Mexico City, when I went to Medellin, Colombia after that, I still had my SmartFit membership that was running in the background. So when I got to Medellin, if you look at SmartFit Medellin, there is a ton of different locations. And my last time in my ignorance, I didn't really leave El Poblado. I didn't speak any Spanish at the time, so I was a little ignorant to the fact of going out of that neighborhood. I didn't want to, I was kind of scared. But this time I ventured a little bit further out. I think I was still in Poblado technically, but I wasn't just in like the super touristy spot. Ended up finding this gym at the Golden Mile and also at the Santa Fe Mall, which was a little bit east of Poblado technically, or a little south, I guess. And those gyms were so much better than the one that I was doing exclusively in Manila. It's called in Poblado last year. So what I wish I would have done in hindsight is go back and try out those different locations. That way I know which gym I actually want to stay with, which gym is going to be the best one for my style of workouts, which one is the least busy, which one, you know, is the cleanest, has the safest access to, all that good stuff. That's what goes into me finding a new gym. So overall, I think that's kind of my main takeaway, is take your time when you first get to a new city, whether you're on vacation, nomading, expatting, whatever it is. You know, find a gym that you like before you commit to the whole thing. So don't be afraid to do a day pass, do one class at one place, move to a second place, but do your pre-research as well. Figure out which neighborhood is the most walkable, which one's the most safe, then go on Google and search for gyms in that neighborhood, and then pick an apartment, pick a hotel, pick an Airbnb, pick a hostel near those gyms. That way, when you're walking around, it's just a little bit of shorter walk and you're able to get around a little bit more easy and not have to worry so much about finding it once you're there. So that's pretty much gonna be the video. I hope this was useful. Again, nice, sweet, and short about kind of how I approach picking my apartments and finding my gyms in the new city. And it's kind of the exciting part, you know, like of all the gyms I've worked out in, it's always interesting the first couple times when you're figuring out, like, you know, the etiquette or where things are in the gym or where's water, like all that stuff kind of makes it a little bit exciting. Like when I was in Argentina, I did a little bit of touring to Patagonia and the Cordoba region, and I worked out like in some random one-off gyms in the towns. I stayed at the Salina Bariloche, and they had a gym inside their hostel, which ended up being this like super random yoga studio that someone had built a squat rack and some like busted ass bench press out of. But you know, you can make it work as long as you're consistent with your training, with your nutrition, with your steps throughout the day. Doesn't really matter, and you should be able to stay in shape as long as you stick to some of those things. So hope this was useful. If it was, feel free to leave a like in a comment section below, or feel free to subscribe. Always helps the algorithm. But as always, my name's Alex. Welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.